Missions Pulse. Know God's heart, join his mission.
Can you tell me some maybe real life examples? I think maybe a lot of people they can hear this theoretical aspect, right, of disciple making movements and how does it really work? And you can kind of feel it because you've been there in East Asian nations, like you mentioned, and growing up perhaps in Africa, on the African continent. What are some kind of real life testimonies, not of walking someone through the pages of a discipleship course, but seeing someone grow in their being discipled and then becoming themselves one who makes other disciples?
Sure, yeah. And well, two examples come to mind. I'm going to give examples of women in particular.
I love that, yes.
Because I think many people don't realize that God is using them dramatically, and the film brings that out.
That's right. Sheep Among Wolves focuses on women as the spear tip of the Iranian church.
Yeah, which is a wonderful thing to observe and highlight. Many times we devalue women's roles in disciple making and in multiplication of the church.
Look back historically and biblically.
So there's
the Samaritan woman,
discipler,
right? I mean, there's this
Lydia, whose house was where the church, was born.
That's right.
So many examples that we find from Scripture. But let me give two examples. One from the recent course that the cohort we ran in June. There was a lady from the UK who was wanting to start a disciple-making movement in her area. And going through the course, she learned a lot about how to create an extraordinary prayer plan. Prayer is huge in the launching of a disciple-making movement, how to mobilize a team of other people to join with her. She's somebody who works a normal job, 40 hours a week. She's doing it as a lay person, but passionate to reach her community. She's in a rural community in the UK. And began to formulate her vision, put that together, really going after that in prayer, and then looking for the person of peace, which is what we talk about in the course. How do you find the person of peace? And for a long time, she was like, what do I do? I've been praying,
it seems so
I've been
ethereal,
going out.
Right? The person of peace.
The person of peace, who are they?
Yeah.
But just about at the very last week of the course, I think it was, she went out and she was sharing, and she found her person of peace.
Wow.
And
they were just a friend she'd come across perhaps in a store or shopping along the way?
Someone in her neighborhood.
I see.
That she built a relationship with and was sharing with. And
just to debunk the person of peace mystery, right?
Exactly, yeah. And I had shared in a blog actually about the importance of giving the invitation. So when we share a story, which the Discovery Bible Studies encourage you to share a story, we were teaching about how to share your testimony, but to be sure to invite.
Yes.
Don't stop short of that. So I'd written a blog about that. She'd been inspired by that, and she invited at the end of sharing with this couple, and they agreed to start a Discovery Bible Study group in their home. And things have taken off. She's been able to start her first multiplication group and getting started. And I'm so excited for her as to what the future holds. But that's really what the course takes you from, kind of point A, very practically, step by step. What do you do if you have that passion to reach your area, to reach your region, your own people group or another people group? It is, great for missionaries, for pastors and leaders, but it is also for the layperson who's hungry to fulfill the Great Commission.
And the course you're talking about, again, just getting started in disciple-making movements. Is that right?
That's right. Getting started in disciple-making movements.
And then the tagline.
Yeah, even if you're busy, can't speak the language well, and have no money.
I like how you point first. Your first story is in a supposed post-Christian society or environment. You're telling me in Europe, supposedly the post-Christian society, and America's heading in many ways that direction, right? Disciple-making movements are starting, and then you've alluded to Iran and disciple-making movements in the most unassuming of places. God is still interested in growing his church through the most unassuming of misfits. I'm speaking to myself, homeschool kid who got my good enough degree, my GED. It suddenly becomes so practical and feasible that disciple-making movements are just people gathering, telling their sphere of influence, their friends and their friends and their friends, and suddenly you kind of see the sparks of a mini revival, perhaps even bigger, and then lives are being transformed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think one of the characteristics that we see in disciple-making movements is they are led by ordinary people. I was talking to another one of my students from the course, and he had recently, he wanted to observe some disciple-making movement. So he had observed one in Burma.
Okay.
And in Myanmar, and he went there and was just seeing what was happening. And he said to me, see, I am just amazed. The guy who's leading this, he's a vegetable seller. How can a vegetable seller be leading hundreds of churches?
That's right.
And yet it's happening worldwide. And disciple-making movements are often led by really ordinary people, people who work jobs, people who are, not necessarily trained in a seminary, or they don't have a degree in theology.
That's
but
right.
They're passionate about obeying Jesus and teaching others how to do the same. And it's leading to rapid multiplication.
When you say that, it reminds me of what's taking place in Thailand right now. I mean, we have many decades and decades, 100 years of missionary presence in Thailand. 65 million Thai people in this country. And there are 92%, I think, who are staunch Buddhist adherents. Suddenly in Phetchabun, in central Thailand, there's this massive revival that's taking place, not led by missionaries, but led by a local guy who was an insurance agent. He was just an insurance agent, working a 9 to 5, got a passion for sharing the gospel, and came up with a strategy. I think that's what you're pointing to, that strategic aspect of seeing, starting with the end in mind, right? What is the end goal I want to achieve? When you get started in disciple-making movements, start from the end in mind, and say, what do I want to see in my neighborhood, my family, in my region, in my sphere of influence? And then, as he took steps, there have been thousands who've made, decisions for Christ. Yeah, this is unlike anything that's ever happened in Thailand before.
I know. We're so thrilled, and more is coming.
That's right, yeah.
More is coming. I really believe breakthroughs are happening in Thailand, and this is the season for an amazing growth, that it won't just be one movement we hear of, but many, many movements happening here. But what you say is so key. It is ordinary people who are embracing a call to be a disciple maker and to multiply disciples who know how to train others. And you talk about strategy, but I think it's important to note that when we say strategy, we're talking really about simplifying, not creating some extravagant, complicated strategy that you need to go through, a year learning, It's really going back to the simple gospel and to using very, very simple methods of training people to be disciples who multiply.
Missions Pulse. Know God's heart, join His mission. This podcast is powered by Within Reach Global. Subscribe, watch, and listen on YouTube today. Visit missionspulse.com.